Okay.
Right?
So our first paper is Sheldon Schaefer talking about his experience with eclipses, solar eclipses specifically.
Yes, solar eclipses. Thank you. And first of all, just a quick announcement. I'm one of the trustees of the Hamilton Scholarship Fund. We give away $1,000 to $4,000 scholarships per semester to students pursuing a degree that will have them active in the planetarium field. We haven't had any applications this year so far. It's a $200,000 endowment that generates about $12,000 a year in interest for these scholarships. So if you know of anybody who might be interested and eligible, direct them to the website or talk to me further and spread the word. So 2017, we have an eclipse coming. And you've heard. And I've been chasing eclipses for a number of years. I want to take a look at some of the eclipses I've chased that helped me get the bug. And then I'm going to suggest a framing for the 2017 eclipse as though we really need one. But I do have people suggesting, what's the big fuss? Well, and also I went to see the one in March, which was a really incredible journey in Indonesia. So starting off, my first eclipse was actually in 1970. It grazed the eastern seaboard. And as a result of bad planning, because I was a student between quarters at The Ohio State University, and it was in the winter, and we had a Volkswagen, and my roommate couldn't drive a stick shift. I had to do the driving. We went to Nantucket, and at Nantucket we discovered you couldn't get to the island. If you could, it was going to be cloudy, and if you did get there, you couldn't get back for a week. So we decided at 8 o'clock on a Friday night that I would drive to Virginia, having driven all day to get there from Ohio from the night before. So we drove to Virginia, and when we got to Virginia, we had an awesome eclipse in Newport News, and we drove back. I slept about 2 hours over that period of time. We got back to Columbus, and the left picture is not exactly my apartment. It was a very similar one. The place had essentially been gutted by fire, burned to the ground, and had I not been on his eclipse expedition, I could have died. So it was a very, very serious fire. So 2,200 miles in 3 days, driving with a non-driver in the car. We had a great eclipse expedition, but lost my house, my student apartment, 4 days before finals. So we did survive, but that sort of gave me the bug. Although it was 20-some years until my next eclipse, I passed. I was sort of distracted. Yes. 1984, Greensboro, North Carolina. Horrible, horrible weather. It was an almost total eclipse, the closest to almost total you can get, a ring eclipse. I had one picture that I took, and somebody else processed it to show a broken annulus. It was an incredible eclipse. Fought a lot of rain on that eclipse. 1990, as part of the IPS meeting, we went to Helsinki. And the only time I did not see the sun. We did have an incredible shadow. You can see the shadow break there in the clouds. Okay, so right there. So that's in the shadow, and that's not. But somewhat disappointing, but it was a great conference in Borlänge with a follow-up in Helsinki. Lots of codfish. Yes. And 1991, Mazatlan, Mexico. I went to Mazatlan because it was cheap. Bart, you went to Baja. Yeah, it was dirt cheap here. And it was cloudy everywhere. I mean, there was thunder, there was lightning. But we were on the roof of a hotel. And this is the only place in town, in the whole region, where a shaft of sunlight came down at totality. And we were able to see totality, and then 15 minutes later, it was storming again. We were actually not very smart being on the roof of a hotel in thunderstorms. But it was an incredible eclipse, incredible to see it there. Just not all the beginning stages, but we saw totality. That's what you're there for. And other folks in town, I ran into other planetarians also had gone there because it was cheap. Yeah, they missed it. So 1994, Peoria, another annular. We had 1,000 people on our museum's lawn. It was incredible. We sold 10,000 eclipse glasses Wholesale 25 cents, retail $2. It was an incredible, I mean, it doubled the income of the museum store for that year. The board of trustees was impressed. They asked me to plan another eclipse next year because they wanted. I'm serious too. Yeah, and then in 1999, Bavaria, Germany, and in Germany, it was storming. It was thunderstorms. It was lightning in Munich, where we had planned to be. But I had seen that we could go to Der Chiemsee, and we chased at 80 miles an hour along German lanes for an hour in the partial stages, and we saw totality beautifully. The sky opened up. And then this was probably the most exciting one, and we didn't have any rainy sky stories because it was absolutely perfect in Mozambique. Most people went to Zambia, and Lusaka, the capital of Zambia, just watched it at the airport. But I got on a small participatory camping expedition where you actually, sometimes at night, you couldn't leave the tent after the sunset because you would die. Because there were lions and, was it hyenas? Hyenas outside, and you could hear them, and they would definitely kill you. But we had some incredible wildlife experiences, and we had a great eclipse in Mozambique. So that was Mozambique in 2001. This was just a partial. It was annular on the West Coast, but it was pouring in Peoria. You've noticed I mentioned rain a lot. But I drove rapidly along the interstate and cleared the front line just in time for sunset. And afterwards, I looked at this one picture. It's a simple point-and-shoot camera, but there was a grain silo right in front of the moon right there. I had no idea it was there. So that was an incredible opportunity. It was annular on the West Coast. And then this eclipse expedition I just went on to Indonesia on the MS Volendam, my first ocean voyage of any real extent, except that one day at sea on an IPS meeting in Florida. That this is the first time I was really on an ocean-going vessel, the MS Volendam. It was a regular route through Indonesia by Holland America. Mr. Eclipse was on it, so I felt real good about the prospects of seeing this eclipse. Fred Espenak, known to many of you, I'm sure. And so I ran into him. He had his set up there. It was a fascinating route. We went via Istanbul and through Singapore, where it debarked. And then we had a day at sea. We were in Jakarta there on the left. We were in Borobudur, second to Angkor Wat on the island of Java, at various ports of call. Probolinggo and Mount Bromo. Mount Bromo is actually the most active volcano in all of Indonesia. That was incredible. And there's a map showing you about where that is in Java. Then another day at sea, Makassar, where I ran into Michael Y. Sessions. Do you remember him? Yeah, I just ran into him at the museum. It's sort of like we're talking, and he says, I said, I invited you to the conference that I was hosting, and we didn't recognize each other otherwise. So at Fort Rotterdam, lots of Eclipse Day activity and lots of Eclipse Day t-shirts. It was pretty amazing. In fact, I thought I was sort of an eclipse chaser till I met people on this boat. You know, and you look at the number of eclipses that folks had seen. Now, well, the reason you're on a boat, you have a challenge with clouds, and we were facing clouds in the morning. But the captain took his job very seriously. We did hear horror stories from other people from other boats in other parts of their life that never saw the sun. One boat apparently never even made it to center line. And the cruise line was being sued. But there's lots of rooms. This is called a mid-sized boat, maximum 1,400 passengers. It seemed empty most of the time. It accommodated everybody easily, and it was a silky smooth sea. You don't always find that, but it was a silky smooth sea. Some mornings, in fact, on this trip, it was like a mountain lake, almost reflective. And it was that way on Eclipse Day. So you can see the activity on either side of the boats. That's a TV station that was from Poland, was there. I had a short interview with them as well. They were interested in getting international perspectives. And Fred, Mr. Eclipse, he has roped off this entire area out here. He has yellow tape. You can't quite see it there, but he makes sure that he has a large area on the boat. Lots of eclipse fun. These people apparently chase eclipses and make local masks for wherever they happen to be going for their eclipse. Pinhole projectors, making all sorts of cute, fun patterns for the partial stages. Dr. Ed Krupp had that group on the boat, so he was along as well. I had a point-and-shoot camera, 50-millimeter lens, so I was able to take just a few simple pictures. I wasn't unimpressed with them, for no real equipment and no experience trying to photograph totality. And then Howard Cohen was from the travel agency that I was with out of Florida. They had posted on the IPS website, by the way. It was a great price. And they said they only got one person through the IPS posting who took this trip, and that was me. But they probably will have similar ones in the future. Maybe if there's 2 South American ones coming up that follow Holland America routes. So we'll see if that happens. So Howard had some great pictures from our group, and we were impressed with those. And then we had some stargazing. Can you see the Southern Cross there? And the Alpha and Beta Centauri. So we had some stargazing. The boats are hard to get dark at night because they have too many lights, and somebody had sort of put covers over the lights on the 10th deck. So we did have a good deck for stargazing in the southern hemisphere there. You can even get a little bit of the Milky Way. And then the trip continued to Komodo, the Komodo dragons, and Lombok, an island paradise, and then Bali, the famous Bali, a couple days at sea and back to Singapore, and an equator crossing ceremony as well. You always have an equator crossing. We almost crossed it twice because where we actually ended up was for Eclipse Day was awfully darn close to the equator, but we didn't quite cross it that day, just came close. And sunset on a marvelous ocean voyage. But now a little bit about framing the eclipse, because I happened to one of my travel brochures that I get online brochures, the 7 Wonders of the World. And I noticed the 7 Wonders of the World, I had all been to 6 of them. And they included the 7 natural wonders of the world: Mount Everest, Rio de Janeiro Harbor, the Northern Lights, not my picture of the Northern Lights, but I was in Barrow, saw an all-sky Northern Lights, which suggested natural phenomenon and besides just natural geologic, and then the Grand Canyon and Victoria Falls. This was when I was for the Africa eclipse, saw Victoria Falls, and the Great Barrier Reef. I was there for the IPS meeting. Well, I went up there. Not the IPS meeting was in Melbourne. But so IPS Travels took me to a couple of these. So I've seen 6 of the 7 natural wonders of the world. The 7th one I hadn't seen was this volcano. So I'm suggesting that given the spectacular nature of the eclipse, but the fact that nobody even knows to put it on a list like this, that we should frame the total eclipse as either the 8th natural wonder of the world, if you don't want to try and knock this volcano off the list, or we should just say that, it's one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. It should replace any of those, but I would say replace the volcano and start framing it as a natural wonder of the world because it far outshines, in a matter of speaking, pun intended, any of those other sites. And so thanks to Howard Cohen for his eclipse photos, and the eclipse photos by Fred Espenac used with permission. And so anyway, I'm out of time.
We have about a minute for any questions. So is there any questions for Sheldon?
Oh, where am I going this year? Or next year, I'm going to Centerline in western Nebraska. I wanted something that was unique in the foreground, and that is going to be Carhenge. Carhenge is just a few miles from Centerline. And plus incredible mobility, because you notice a lot of my stories involve torrential rain and horrible weather. Well, the path, the western Nebraska roads are fantastic. They follow the path, and then you hit I-80, and it follows the path for almost 200 miles. So you have the best mobility of anywhere in the country if you go to western Nebraska. Yeah, everybody knows about Carhenge, right?
Yeah, I'll use this to talk about eclipses. Sheldon knows I'm an eclipse chaser too. I'm 4, not quite as many, but was in Zambia or for the African one, and they're just so great. And how many here of planetarium people have never seen a total? Never seen a total. Whoa. You're probably wondering what the heck we're talking about, and why we get so giddy and everything. It's really hard to describe. It really is. You can't do it justice, and so we fumble for words. But if you don't have plans, as a planetarium person, you have to have plans now. You just have to. They're just so awesome, and Sheldon's absolutely right. Eighth wonder of the world, whatever. I can't wait, and yeah, I'll just, before we start, my first eclipse, my experience was so powerful, I really thought, in a sense, the world was coming to an end. I felt it. I really thought it's over with. And I could totally connect with our ancestors who thought this was it. And at the same time, I was just, on the other side of the brain, I was just like, this is so awesome. So it's really this kind of juxtaposition of two emotions. And so anyway, 10 months, right? 10 months tomorrow?
So on that world-ending note, let's talk about love shows in your planetarium.
Okay, if you don't know me, I'm Bob Bonitor. I run the Sorf Planetarium in downtown Milwaukee. This is, how many here do a Valentine's show? Okay, Sarah, a few people. Dave back there. So I started this 23 years ago in Minneapolis, and it wasn't actually my idea. It was the staff members said, you should do something for Valentine's Day. I'm like, well, what? So we did a show called Constellations of Love, and now we call it Romancing the Stars. And I bombed. I was so used to talking to kids and families, and I had all couples in the room. And I'm trying to tell love stories, and just like I couldn't relate to them. It was just like I was not used to it. And you only do it once a year, right? And so the next year it got a little better. But now it's great. Everything just flows, and I'm used to the couples, and you get couples, you get teen couples, you get adults, and it's no children. You advertise it, no children. And my big joke at the start of my show is, contrary to popular belief, this is not the makeout show. I don't put the stars on the ceiling and let you have at it for 45 minutes and come back and we're done. So it's really a suggestive show, whatever, but it's all live. So you have to be on, and you have to connect with your audience. So kind of stumbled to start, but been doing it for over 20 years now, and it's been great. You can tell. So we all told the bear story, right? Zeus, So the joke with Zeus is, back in the 90s, he was the Bill Clinton of his times. And now you got to change it to Tiger Woods or whomever. So you have these jokes, but then you do it any way you want. But my style is to do the humor and then do the majesty and the awe of the universe and kind of go back and forth with that. The Orion story, of course, shot by his lover, accidentally, Diana, after being tricked by Apollo. So there's lots of stories up there. Finally got some new music into my shows. I'm a little older. So this is Drops of Jupiter. I don't know if anyone, so I'm finally working some new music into the show. We don't play the whole song. We play about a minute here and there. So we do music clips. Glad You Came is a great song. And, Universe is glad. Pretty happy about it, So that's the opening song we do for our show. So we mix in music for this, and thanks to my stepdaughter for suggesting these songs. I never knew where they came from. And of course, you've all seen pictures like this. We put that in the show. And NASA released these on Valentine's Day. NASA's not stupid. I mean, they released these pictures, the Heart Nebula and Cassiopeia, and that's Mars on the right there. And this I just added last few years, so I'm like, there's got to be some other stuff. So you tell them, scientists can be, romantic and things like that too. Not that we're all PhD scientists, but they get it. So there's another one. There's tons of them out there. So, and we do the, I think I put it on here, yeah. So we play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and then we said, you know, there's a new version of it. And so we have some fun with that. Anyway, survey results. I did a survey on Domel. I got 22 responses. This is it's not everyone who does it. I don't know how many I hit. I tried to survey it on Google, like to find out how many people do Valentine's shows, and it was hard to do. So I don't know how many do it. I got 22 responses. Okay, so that's what I got. And look at all the different titles that you have up there. Those are the different ones that people do. And this is in the proceedings, and all that will be in there. So just take a look. Whatever you like to do. So these are some of the surveys. So almost all the respondents said the shows were sold out or near capacity. Okay? And depends on the dome size and market, but you can see how I have to, sorry to say, but this was us. In Milwaukee, we had over 1,100 people for 6 shows. And of course, we're all trying to impress our administrators, right, our bosses and stuff, and this show, you know, helps me in terms of money, all that stuff. So I don't know who the no was, but they said, it is some work, and I put in the proceedings, you know, to talk for 45 minutes. Ours is a sunset to sunrise show. I mean, and to try to connect to couples, it takes some work. So I'm not gonna. It takes some work to get it right. But if you're, and I assume all of you are good presenters, you know how to relate to audiences, you can do this. You can do this. So how many shows do people do? Notice they don't do we started out with just one show, but people do multiple shows, you know. And I found out, you can see the cost there, that when Valentine's falls on a Saturday, attendance just goes way up. It's, you know, instead of if it falls on a Tuesday or Wednesday or something like that, we do a weekend show before. We still do a weekend show before and that night if it's the middle of the week. But again, some people do elaborate dinners, all of this. We just do straight talk. So here are some of the things that people do. See a lot of chocolate, things like that, hors d'oeuvres, a lot of roses, flowers, lots of cool things that people do. Roses for purchase, you know, gift baskets. I can't think of, talk to April, she did some cool stuff. Is April here? She did some cool stuff in Atlanta. I think this was, they had prizes and stuff. Yeah, I think that was it. People could write messages to their lover as they came in, and then they would digitally put it up on the dome. So it was pretty cool. We've had one. Yeah, and so in front of 200 people or so, and at the end, you know, we got a special announcement, and we had one. So yeah, we've had that before. So, and actually, I think, is that the last one? Yeah, we do our Valentine's show. We do a show we put it on our website, and you can book this show on your own. And I just did a show for this Valentine's show for 8 couples. They were celebrating their 25th anniversary. They invited their friends, the couples, and they came in and did the show. This was like a month ago, you know. And I've done it for 2 people plenty of times. Over 10, 20 times I've done it for just 2 people. They book it. They're celebrating an anniversary or something, and they just... So it is kind of strange. You sit down with 2 people, you know, and you do a show for 2 people, but it's fun. They like it, and you just be casual with them and talk to them about it. So I would say, you know, obviously you're here. You came to this talk. How many are thinking about doing it? Okay, a few of you. Okay. You know, talk to me more about it. The biggest thing, it brings in an audience that normally doesn't come. It really does. And tell us some negative. So you've kind of seen my humor and how I bounce back from humor to majesty of the universe. And, you know, one lady, I saw her at some event, and she goes, "Yeah, we saw your Valentine's show. It was really good, but, not so much humor." And it was like, well, okay. But, most people like it. I mean, it's all suggestive. It is, but it's just fun stuff. I mean, one, Mark Lee and Jan Davis. Anyone know those two? I know Dave does. They're astronauts. They were astronauts in the 90s. And they were husband and wife. And they flew in the same shuttle mission. In 92. See, you're already going there, all right? Everyone's going there, so what happened? And so we did an animation with our Digistar. We just have the shuttle fly over. We bring up their pictures, and we put them in a heart frame. And then we take the 2 heart pictures, and we put them into the shuttle. And close the doors on the shuttle. And we say, no one knows what went on up there. They're not telling. But if anything did happen, it's the new meeting to the Mile High Club. So anyway, but do what you want with the humor or not. It's up to you. I mean, I saw Tyson. How many have seen Tyson do his rock concert, or Neil deGrasse Tyson? Phenomenal speaker, right? I mean, but he's gotten so popular that he is like a stand-up comic almost. I mean, he's telling a joke every 20, 30 seconds. And I'm like, a little more awe of the universe. Because he's so good. He takes the universe and brings it down to people's level, but he's so popular. I mean, he's just amazing. So anyway, however you want to do it, it's totally up to you. I don't know anyone who's done this show who's recorded anything. It's all been live. Everyone who's done it. We do put music into it, but again, we don't play the whole song just because I don't want ASCAP or BMI coming after me and saying, did you get the rights for that? So we use snippets of the song, which is probably technically not legal. I don't know. I mean, we play snippets of it, 30 to 60 seconds. We never play the whole song. So I know we all walk that line, whatever, in planetariums. So the music, I saw Laser Fantasy last night. No one talked about the musical rights and stuff to play Pink Floyd and their stuff. So anyway. All right, I think I'm done. Any questions? Got time for questions? 30 seconds.
At least when the board asks you to do it again next year, you can.
Yeah. No, it's, so we just give Rose, I don't know. So, one story quick, I'll finish. I went out in Texas, I did this show when I worked in Arlington, Texas, and we were in the physics chemistry building, and the head of chemistry was so appalled at the ideas of the show. Just appalled, like, you're a planetarian, what are you, this is not science. And he was giving me the riot act, and I go, look, and I got feisty back at it. I go, every show we do has education in it. There's tons of education in the show. We talk about, and the closing of him and his wife came to the show 8 months later and loved it and had a great time with it. So I convinced the dean of chemistry and he loved the show. So anyway, that's it. Thanks.